If you haven't got the faintest idea what to do, you're organizing an event, maybe it's a party or a funeral or a wedding or something, and really don't know where to start, then you're in absolutely the right place because today I'm talking to Claire Bradford. Bradford, I can't even say her name properly. And actually, she knows all about it, don't you, Claire?
I'd like to think so.
I'll hand straight over to you then.
Thank you. Yeah, hi. So I'm Claire Bradford. I am an independent celebrant, which means that I get to conduct weddings, namings, and funerals as a living. So I get to hear stories and tell stories, and I love it. But what really does occur to me is when people are coming up to any kind of event, it may be a big milestone thing like weddings, it may be a funeral, or it might even just be something like a birthday party. People often don't really think outside the box. They don't really think like what does this actually mean for me? And then sometimes they'll still go ahead and have a fantastic day. But other times they can go, oh, I kind of didn't really feel quite like I wanted it. And so really this is about not sleepwalking into this is how we do a thing because this is how we do the thing. This is about being really conscious and intentional about the events that you're planning, whether that is a wedding, whether it is a funeral, whether it is a birthday party, whether it is something like the end of your workday. It can be a little tiny ritual that you do on your own, or it can be a huge event with hundreds of people. It might even be a work event. It might be a leaving party. Any of these things can kind of come into this thing. But it really does mean that all of these things can help you to get really intentional right at the beginning. Ask yourself some questions. And then these things will be the foundation for something that really goes well, includes everybody, makes everybody feel good, and importantly, does the thing that you need it to do. So here are some of my tips and habits for thinking about ceremonies, thinking about events before you actually get to doing them. So, like I say, first of all, it's about not sleepwalking into a thing. This is especially true when it comes to things like weddings. Okay, we think, oh, well, we know what a wedding is, right? That's when two people say nice words to each other and everybody gets together, and this is what happens. So they think, oh, and so if I'm a bride, then my dad's going to walk me down the aisle, of course, or I'm going to be wearing white, or these things have to happen. There's nothing like a wedding to actually find all of the people that you've ever known coming out and telling, oh, well, you must do this. Of course, you've got to do that. And people really get into that thing of, oh gosh, because it's a wedding, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And it ends up becoming really a watered down version potentially of what you actually want it to be. So a lot of people consider traditions and things to be like law as in LAW, but actually they're just law as in LORE because people have done them for a long time and they work really well often, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with them. But the point being, it isn't law with an LAW. You can use traditions if you like to, but if they don't work for you, you can chuck them out or you can change them. So, for example, if you are organizing a wedding, you perhaps are a bride and you would like to walk down, but you don't perhaps have a father, or perhaps your father hasn't really been there for you in the way that you would like him to be. Or perhaps actually you've got two mums. You can do whatever you would like to do. You can walk down the aisle with whoever you want or on your own. You can walk down the aisle with your partner. Your partner can walk down the aisle as well. Shock horror, but he's the opposite sex to me and he stands at the end, surely. No, just because that's tradition doesn't mean it has to be the thing that you do. So this is what I'm talking about. It's just starting to notice all of the things that you make assumptions about when you think about something that is quite a tried and trusted kind of ceremony or ritual or event. Um, Also, it's about thinking about the kinds of ceremonies that you are allowed in a way. Again, we have this idea that people are going to do weddings and funerals and maybe baby namings, possibly even vow renewals and things. But there are lots and lots of things that we can really celebrate in ways that are other than like a party, but yes, but a party with a purpose. So, for example, retirement. A divorce, for example, the start or the end of a holiday. It just could be a really small family thing. An adult naming, maybe somebody has transitioned or wants to just make a new start. A recovery from illness, for example, menopause, all sorts of things. There can be so many different things. And it's just really thinking about how I'm going to celebrate this with a purpose and with an intention so that it really feels like this is what I needed it to be. Right, so these sort of things, they are suitable, like I say, for life in general. So it could be your work day, it could be how you begin and end your work day. When I'm talking about rituals, I don't mean like we all have to put on hoods and light candles and be all mysterious and stuff. It just means like a little thing that signals to you, this is the end of my work day, this is the beginning of my work day, this is what we do when we have dinner. And it's the little things that kind of grow over the years and really kind of, yeah, they give your life purpose and intention. So the first thing we need to do, whether it is the beginning of your workday, the end of your workday, or a wedding, it doesn't matter. The first thing we need to do is ask questions. And all the big, W questions come up here. So number one, why am I actually marking this? Celebrating this, marking it, whatever you want to do. What is its exact purpose, really? So, oh, just did a little thumbs up. Yay. So why are we actually celebrating? Often this is going to be, again, seemingly obvious. It might be, well, everybody celebrates getting married, don't they? Yes, but what is it why are we celebrating? We've been together for donkey's yonks, but we're finally, starting tying the knot. Why are we celebrating it? Why now? That kind of thing. So just really getting clear on that. What is the purpose? So we've got the why, we've got the what. What is the purpose of this? Again, people might say, well, obviously my grandpa's died, so it's to say goodbye, isn't it? Well, yes, it is. But what kind of thing do you want to have? Is that everybody gathering together, everybody celebrating who he was? Or is it just going, oh, thank goodness he's dead, the old codger? It's what is going on here is actually about bringing everybody together. What do you want to say? What do you want to say about your granddad? Do you want to say, really talk about the kind of granddad he was, the kind of person he was? Maybe he was massive in the community and you want to have all of his community groups involved. So there's all sorts of things that is beyond the obvious. What's the purpose of this? And then a really, really important one as well is who. And that is who is going to be there. Now, again, this could be hundreds of people. This could just be you, or it could be you and your immediate family. But that will really make a big, big difference to the feel of anything that you decide to do. It might all be your colleagues. So finally saying goodbye to Derek from accounts, who's been there for, 45 years, and he's been a great old codger, and he's always brought old codger, that's twice I've used that. I've clearly got old codgers on the brain today. But he always makes tea for everyone and brings in cake, and he's a good guy and everyone wants to say goodbye. But it's all your old colleagues that you see all the time, you're on. So it can feel very much like it's an extension of the day. But actually, no, let's think about who do we want to invite. Maybe his family wants to come in. Maybe his best friend wants to come. Those sorts of things. Weddings are a big one for this. People go, oh my God, I have to invite every single person in my life. But we all know how expensive that gets, how potentially traumatic, especially if you've got, divorced parents or that kind of thing going on. And there are always going to be people that you really just don't want there, but you feel you should have there. And that really gets political and things as well. Just think about, before you start thinking about the should, or how am I going to tell Auntie Beryl that she can't come, just think about, who would I really like there? Who would be the most important people there? Yes, there's a whole other load of things that we could talk about in terms of not asking the people that think that they should be invited and aren't. However, the most fundamental thing for getting the purpose of this ceremony and to really sort of understanding what you need to get out of it is to answer these questions, and who you want to have there is really key. And for a wedding, guess what? It might just be the two of you. Those are really, really cool. Go and elope somewhere. Or it might be a handful of your very best friends. Or it might be a massive party, and that is all good too. But yeah, remember that there is no shoulds. Well, there are lots of shoulds, but the minute you hear a should in your head is an alarm bell to say there's some questioning involved here. You need to ask yourself some questions. So we've had the why are we actually celebrating? We've had the what's the purpose? And we've had the who's going to be involved. We've also got how. This is super important. How do I want to feel by the end of this ceremony? Or how do I want to feel during the ceremony? And also, how do I want the other people to be feeling as well? Where will this take place? Does it have to be there? Could it be somewhere else? For example, weddings don't have to be held in a church or in a registry office, for example. They can be almost anywhere. You can be in the garden, you can be up a hill, anywhere you'd like. Same with funerals. They don't have to be in the creme, and they don't have to be in a church. You can have them in lots and lots of different places. So to have a think about that. That would change the parameters. When? Again, you don't have to have these in the normal times. You can have a funeral in an evening. You can have a wedding. I had one couple who had a wedding in the daytime, and they said, we just don't like staying up late. We always go to bed early. Are we allowed to finish it early? I was like, yeah, finish it whenever you want. So they finished it at 8 o'clock. They had it from 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then they went home, put their feet up, went to bed, and everyone else had an after party. Great. That's what they needed to do, you know? So it doesn't have to be the times that everyone thinks it is. Have a funeral at weekend, have a wedding in the middle of a Wednesday. It's all good. Also think about length and that sort of thing as well. Funerals and weddings particularly, they go on and on and on, don't they? But they don't have to. They really don't have to if you don't want them to. And then think about whose, as in whose is this ceremony? We often think about it being, you know, the couple's ceremony or the person who's died ceremony. Well, yes, it is theirs. And actually, if it's you that's the couple, you get to call the shots, very much so. But you also thinking about who is involved, who we're wanting to have there. With a funeral, this is something that's quite contentious, but it's about the person that they died, but it's not for them, it's for the people they left behind, which somewhat changes the dynamic sometimes. So I recently had a guy who was planning his ceremony and he wanted to have hot, 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 feeling hot, hot, hot as the curtains closed. And he thought this was going to be really funny. But actually, when I was talking to his wife and family, they were really distraught and they were like, oh, I just don't want a hot, hot, hot. What we ended up doing was going, okay, this is what he wanted. This is a bit of a joke on his behalf. So let's imagine, like, and then the curtains are closing because they didn't want to have the curtains closed. And we played hot, hot, hot. And people sort of laughed, actually, because it was baking in the crematorium as much as anything else. It was a very hot day. But we then immediately went on to some music that they felt was more reflective. We talked about what he wanted, and that was about him. But for the people who were there, that was going to feel they weren't in that let's have a laugh sort of mood. So yeah, answers to all of these questions. I'm just like really whizzed through them all, of course, but all of these things will help you to really understand what it is you want to get from your ceremony. Just not going through the motions of this is what everybody does, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then the last thing that I would really recommend after those questions is really starting to shape things by thinking about how you're going to involve everybody else there, if there is anyone else there. So maybe by being radically inclusive. I think that's really, really important. Just expecting people just to turn up and watch you getting married or whatever. You might have people who are neurodiverse who kind of can't still for very long, or people who are elderly who can't stand, or lots of different things. You want to really start thinking with love about all the people who are going to be there. How can we bring them together? How can we make them comfortable? But also prioritizing the first things that we've talked about. How can you involve everybody in this thing, in this ceremony, in this goodbye party, whatever it happens to be? How can we do that in a way that brings everyone together? That might be a simple thing, like often in the funeral, people often say the Lord's Prayer, even if they're not particularly religious. There's something about joining voices together that feels quite comforting in a way. It's an old and familiar thing. Sorry, crows outside making noises. But for example, in a wedding, you can pass the rings around, have a lovely ring warming. At a birthday party, for example, we could all sing Happy Birthday. We're bringing voices together. That's something very traditional. But you might say, do you know what? I don't want to have my birthday cake, which is, a big should for a birthday, because I know that loads of my friends, I don't know, they're allergic to gluten or they're all trying to lose weight at the moment, so it feels a bit unfair. So just start thinking about what could I do instead? If you want a birthday cake, great, have a birthday cake to yourself, or or share a birthday cake, but start to think about everybody else and how they can get involved. And think about people's talents and strengths. You know your friends, you know your family. If there's somebody who's great at designing things, maybe get them to sort of design a lovely poster or a game or an invitation, for example. If there's somebody that's really good at conversation, ask them to look out for the people who are a little bit more introverted, who are going to be on the edges, and see if they can bring them in and sort of help them and introduce them to people and gently sort of make sure that they feel comfortable and that they feel included. If you've got somebody who's fantastic with music, get them to be your DJ or put you together a killer playlist. Really make everybody involved, and then they feel like they own this ceremony as well. Um, and also, if you can include all the senses, that's really great. So think about how you can make something smell. Funerals are fantastic. If somebody always had a signature scent, just spray it around a little bit beforehand or put it on the orders of service. It makes such a difference. Maybe what they want to taste, what foods are they going to be there? What would be lovely for this occasion? Maybe the guy who's leaving the work office, he always brought in chocolate eclairs, for example. So make sure that you've got his favorite chocolate eclairs there. What would you like to hear? Kind of music, laughter, people talking. Would you like to hear people? Would you like to give people an opportunity to talk? What would you like to see? Everybody wearing colours, maybe. Everybody wearing one colour. A beautiful venue. What would you like to feel? Literally sensory. Is it going to be beautiful, comfortable chairs? Is it going to be really nice and cozy? Is it going to be lovely and breezy on your face? And what would you like? Yeah, like I said about smell as well. So all of the different things that you're bringing in, lots and lots of sensory experiences so that you really kind of get it. Right, and just before I finish, basically, I have whizzed through all of this because there's so much to say about it, but I hope that it's been really helpful. But what I'm particularly keen to say is that there's no right or wrong, but there is intention. And if you think about all these foundations before you create a thing, then it will be much more likely to be right for you and for the people who are there, and not just a thing that you kind of feel like, oh, thank goodness that's over. Like sometimes we can go, oh, I suppose I ought to have a gathering for this. But no, when you actually really think about it, think about your intention, think about your purpose, think about everybody who's going to be there and how they're going to feel, then suddenly that experience takes on a whole different vibe. And yeah, I really, really hope that that's helpful. And yeah, that's me.
Oh my goodness, I love that, Claire. I feel so sort of, my heart feels full just listening to
Oh,
you
great.
talking about it in a way that really is expansive and loving and fun and creative and
Mm.
all those things. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of the people watching or listening will have gone to an event, a wedding or a funeral that just felt like they didn't belong at because there was no sort of bringing together of people,
Yeah,
all the things that you talked about, and it's very easy to overlook those things, isn't it?
yeah.
In the attempt to do it, right. But like you say, there is no right way, and I think also by saying what you've said, there may be people watching or listening who suddenly think that now they have permission to really, really enjoy whatever that event is and to really explore the possibilities that perhaps they
Mm.
didn't feel were open to them before you spoke so beautifully on it. So thank you so, so much.
No, you're so welcome. Thank you for asking me to be here.
If those of you watching or listening have felt really excited and found it very useful what Claire said, then check out her links below and do get in touch with her. She's such a brilliant person to talk to. Every conversation we've had has been a joy. So get in touch with her. My links will be there as well. And all there is to say, really, Claire, is thank you very much for talking and sharing your wisdom. And thank you,
Oh,
everyone else, for watching.
thank you.